Capcom had some of the absolute best Super Nintendo games for sure, but not all of them were winners. How are you feeling? You got John Riggs today ranking the games from Capcom for the Super Nintendo. These are games published by Capcom. And I'm probably not going to get all of them. I have over 30 games on this list. I may be missing a game or two, and if I am, please let me know in the comments. It's free to watch the channel. It's also free to subscribe to the channel. That's right, you can do that right now. Hit that subscribe button. But if you're looking for further ways to support, I do sell my homebrews on my website. I wrote a book about breakfast cereals in the 80s and 90s. And I also sell my oddly specific air fresheners. Like this one that smells like a 1980s arcade, complete with menthol cigarettes, wood paneling, used gum, and spilt Coke. Or you can grab this one. That's new game smell. It's basically styrofoam and static. All these and more, check out my link in the description below. Thanks. Kicking off the list with Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Eye of the Beholder. The box art alone made me want to play this game. The gameplay alone made me not want to play this game. These dungeon crawler games, these AD&D, see the AD&D games could be very, very cool. Could be the best. And so many times when you translate an AD&D game to a video game, it doesn't always pan out that great. And I know there's a lot of people who love the AD&D games. I couldn't quite get into it just with the way the controls were. I mean, yes, you still get to create your own party, which is fantastic. But then when you're actually walking around the dungeon and trying to fight the enemies and just how everything looks and how it feels, I wish it could have played a lot better. I really wish it could have. But for me, it gets a D. Bonkers, we're already into the Disney Capcom games, and there's going to be several Disney games on this list from Capcom. And Bonkers, I think, missed the mark being as popular as a DuckTales or Tailspin because Bonkers was a Saturday morning cartoon. When you think of all the other Disney greats, they're like the after-school lineup. The DuckTales, Rescue Rangers, Goof Troop was in there, Gummy Bears earlier than that. And then Bonkers, a decent cartoon, it really was. It wasn't bad. It was a Saturday morning cartoon when you're sleeping in or already playing video games or whatever you're doing on your Saturday mornings. The video game, though, it actually plays pretty well. You do not need to watch the cartoon to enjoy Bonkers, although you're probably confused why you're playing as a police cat. It plays okay. It plays a lot like the Tiny Toon Adventures game, and we'll cover the Tiny Toon game in the Konami ranking video, which I'll do coming up here soon. But it's a lot of dashing, a lot of jumping. I mean, it's good. It could be better. It was worth a rental. How about that? I'll give it a B. I think it's pretty good. Breath of Fire 2. What about Breath of Fire 1? Well, as it turns out, Breath of Fire was not published by Capcom. But either way, you could put Breath of Fire and Breath of Fire 2 in the same sentence as far as I'm concerned, or in the same breath, because they both play pretty much the same, and they're both great. They're both really good. I prefer the first one over the second one. The second one's more collectible, but gameplay-wise, I prefer the first one. It just didn't seem so grindy. It didn't seem as, I don't know, just a drudging experience. That's the second one. The second one was really good, though. I never beat the second one. you know what? I lost interest. I gave up. But the first one, great. The soundtrack, fantastic. Breath of Fire and Breath of Fire 2 are both really, really good. I'm still thinking Breath of Fire 2, but I would still put them both as a B. Really, really good. Could have been better, but man, there's a lot worse out there for sure. Capcom's MVP Football. What makes it MVP Football? Well, you can play as MVPs, I guess. I don't know. They just needed a name for a football game. It's a okay football game. And when I say okay, I mean there are a couple of football games for the Super Nintendo that are worse than this, in my opinion, but so much better out there. If you're looking for a football experience, even though it says Capcom, and even though it gives you the most bootleggiest Capcom logo when you first boot up the game, that's the Capcom logo? It's like they try to do it from memory. It's not great. I'll give it should I give it a C? I mean, it's a decent, it still plays like a decent football game, but there's so much better out there. You know what? I'll give it a D. I'll give it a D. Why not? We have Capcom's Soccer Shootout. Yeah, this game was so much of a soccer game that they had to literally put Capcom in the title for you to buy this thing. And maybe if you bought it, you know what? It's actually a pretty good soccer game. If you like the kind of soccer games, everyone's all about FIFA. FIFA's great. FIFA's the standard. But as far as just, playing soccer or football, if you're across the pond, by all means, it's worth checking out. It's that kind of soccer game, unfortunately, however, where you play as the different countries. Like, it doesn't have like the US leagues. It doesn't have Premier League. You can't play as Liverpool. Sorry. You can play as England generically. But it is, as far as soccer games go, it's actually a pretty good soccer game. Let's give it a C. I almost said C for soccer, but that wouldn't make any sense. Captain Commando. Captain Commando came out from Capcom, and what a great beat-em-up. Capcom actually had some pretty decent beat-em-ups on there, and beat-em-ups were a great genre to rent for sure for the weekend, because for the most part, you could probably beat them the first time you play them, or beat them after you go through a couple of times, or maybe go through with a couple of different characters, because you can play as Captain Commando, who I only knew from like the Capcom instruction manuals, like from the NES, where you like open up on the first page, it's like, hey, thanks for getting this game, and you're awesome, and you're amazing, and you know, a big thank you from Captain Commando. And I was like, who's Captain Commando? Is it... Is that the playable character from Commando? I don't think so. In this game, you can actually play as Captain Commando and a baby in a robot suit and a couple of other characters, too. Not the best beat 'em up, but it's better than Final Fight, in my opinion. I do like Captain Commando quite a bit. I'll give it a B. We gotta talk about Demon's Crest. Demon's Crest is such an amazing game. If you've never played Demon's Crest, it's the awesome. For Game Boy, we had Gargoyle's Quest, then Gargoyle's Quest 2 for the NES, and then Demon's Crest. You play as Firebrand, which is like that kind of fire demon thing from Ghosts and Goblins. It would be like if they made an entire game where you play as a Goomba, which, by the way, isn't a bad idea, Nintendo. You play as the kind of fire demon, but it's still a little bit platformy. It doesn't move as fast. It'd be like going from Sonic the Hedgehog to Ristar. Is it Ristar? Ristar? You know what I'm talking about? Where it's like a slower experience, but so excellent. It's a little bit like that. You don't move as fast as you would like to because you're so used to just running everywhere, but you don't need to. That's part of the mood, I think. You get to unlock different demons along the way too. Like some of them can swim, some of them can fly further, some of them can, you know, do other things too. I can't talk highly enough about this game. It's my perfect kind of game. It still has that mode 7 when you're flying around on the overworld map, exploring where you want to go. I beat this game once without even getting all of the things. I don't know if I hacked it or cracked it or what happened. But I got to a certain point where I was just like, oh, the end game over. It was probably the bad ending, now that I think about it. But I love me some Demon's Crest. I've actually been thinking about it. Got to pick it up and play it again sometime soon. In my opinion, Demon's Crest gets an S. There are two people in this world. One who loves Super Nintendo Aladdin, one who loves Sega Genesis Aladdin. They're both excellent games. They're both really, really good games. Both of them are different, but both of them are excellent. Me personally, I'm on Team Genesis, but the Super Nintendo game is still 100% absolutely worth playing. It's great, has a great music, has the great animation. Again, that Disney Capcom crossover. It's Disney's Aladdin on the Super Nintendo. I'm giving it an A. It's wonderful. Well, we gotta talk about Final Fight. It was one of the earlier Super Nintendo games for sure, and I couldn't wait to get Final Fight on the Super Nintendo because the graphics, to me, looked just like the arcade version. It's like, oh, I love it in the arcade. Gonna love it on Super Nintendo when I pop it in, and it's a one-player experience. It's like that was one of the fun things about the arcade, was you got the 3 characters you can choose from, 2 players simultaneous, go through the arcade, have some fun. It's a quarter buncher for sure, but what a wonderful experience. And at home, you have Final Fight. You only have 2 characters you can choose from, and it's one player only. Such a letdown. I would have given it an A. I'll give it a B because it's still pretty good. I should give it a C, but I'll give it a B because it's still worth playing. It's not as fun as a one-player game, as a beat-em-up. Beat-em-up should always be a 2-player game. That's half the fun anyway. And we could also throw Final Fight Guy in there if you'd like as well. Also giving it a B because it doesn't matter if it has Guy or not. I'm playing as Hagar every time. Final Fight 2 rolls around. It's better, but it's still kind of good. It does have 2-player. It does play better than the first one, in my opinion. I know the first one you want to play because it's the arcade version at home, and now it's like, oh, now you have a straight-to-Super Nintendo port of the sequel. It's like back when you'd have like the movie in the theater, and then there's a straight-to-DVD sequel or whatever that never came out in theaters. This time, you know, for Super Nintendo, it actually works pretty well. Final Fight 2, excellent experience. I like it quite a bit, and I'm still playing as Hagar every time. I know it's better, but I'm still giving it a B. It'd be like a B+, but I'm not doing pluses or minuses. It's just solid, good B. Final Fight 3, however, I might give that an A. I like it just a little bit more, and I don't know why. The play controls seem about the same. Maybe it's Hagar's ponytail. I don't know. But I do like Final Fight 3 quite a bit, and it's worth checking out. You got a couple of ninjas in there you can play as, and you have Hagar. That's all you need to know, really. And you got that guy that can, like, with the electroshock arm, which I thought was kind of weird, but yeah, what are you gonna do? Final Fight 3, I'd give it an A. Goof Troop is one game that I liked it quite a bit when I first rented it. I was like, okay, Goof Troop, yeah, sure, I'll check it out. And you play it, and it's pretty good. You know, 2 players simultaneous, a little bit more puzzle adventure style, where you can pick up the different items. You can pick up, like, any 2 things, like a grappling hook and the bridge piece, or something like that. One person's Goofy, one person's Max. And it was one of those experiences. I rented it, I had a lot of fun with it, played it all the way through on a rental weekend, and then a few months later, I was like, man, I want to play that again. There's something about that game that just stood out to me, and the more I thought back to it, the more I'm like, that was a lot of fun, and I took it for granted as I was playing it. But then in retrospect, man, what a great game that was. Goof Troop, man, it's still one of my favorite Super Nintendo games today. I'm giving it an A for sure. Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse. Well, now we have the Mickey Mouse game on the Super Nintendo, and the games featuring Mickey are usually pretty good, for the most part. And this one, no exception. A little bit on the easy side, but it's also just fun, and it just looks fun too. You step on the enemies, and you can like pick them up and throw them, and I like that first stage too, where you pick up like those bulbs, and then you toss them, and it turns into like a helicopter, you grab back onto it, and fly up to the top of the screen and all that too. It is a great platformer that happens to star Mickey Mouse. I'm also giving that game an A. Later on, we got Great Circus Mystery starring Mickey and Minnie. So now you can play as Mickey Mouse or play as Minnie Mouse. You got your option on this one. Not bad. And very similar to the other one, where you can stomp on the enemies, pick them up, and chuck them at the other people, or pick up the boxes and chuck those as well. What makes this one stand out a little bit more is it has the ability to have different suits that you can use. There's like a vacuum type suit. There is a kind of Wild West where you can like shoot, I'm guessing they're corks, we wouldn't call them bullets. And there was another one. What was that other one? Let me know in the comments. I'm not going to do any research and find out. but it has the ability to have different suits that you can use to help you with your quest to battle Pete at the very end. I had a spoiler alert, Pete's the end boss. Of course he is. Great game. I'm also giving that an A. It's definitely worth checking out if you haven't. It's unfortunate that Japan, for the Super Famicom, got a third Mickey Mouse type game. We didn't get it here, but I can't talk about that. We'll talk about that in a Japanese Capcom video later on. King of Dragons. Now, King of Dragons should have been the AD&D game I would have liked to have played. King of Dragons should have been that advanced Dungeons & Dragons. I know it's not really advanced Dungeons & Dragons. However, there were a couple of Dungeons & Dragons beat-em-ups, and this reminds me a little bit more like that, but still that classic early 90s arcade Capcom style that I absolutely loved. You have the ability to play as different classes. You can play as a wizard, you can play as a cleric, you can play as a warrior, fighter, whatever they're called. That's kind of fun too. So, and then it's kind of cool. I mean, the wizard doesn't have the most health bar, but you can shoot fireballs as your main attack. I mean, things like that, and you also do have magic. This one's a little bit maybe closer resembling something like a golden axe, where you have your ability to use magic, and you also have your ability to fight the enemies as they're coming in. Great experience. Do I give it an A though? Oh, it's hard to say. I've given so many games A's, but there are so many great Capcom games on the Super Nintendo. I think I would give this an A, yeah. Knights of the Round, another fantastic beat 'em up, and it's funny because they released King of Dragons and Knights of the Round around the same time, both from the arcade, now on the Super Nintendo, and both very similar. Although Knights of the Round, you can play as King Arthur or Percival or Lancelot, I believe, and it's just another kind of beat 'em up style game, which has that beat 'em up idea where it's like you can hit, or you can jump, or you can hit both buttons and do kind of like the desperation move. And I liked how the desperation move would make you invincible even for a couple of seconds to really get you out of harm's way and everything like that too. I'll give it an A as well. It's just super good. Then we have Magic Sword. Yet again, another great arcade game, come Super Nintendo. Great music, great sounds, quick levels, and a ton of levels as well. With you and your Magic Sword, you get these keys all the time, and with the keys you can unlock these doors, and there might be another warrior on the other side, or maybe a Valkyrie, or maybe a ninja, or someone who will help you fight your battle with you. Or your option, your secondary player, gonna help you out on your quest. So it's always like, I like who I have, but should I drop them to grab the other person? I don't know. You find that person you really, really like, and you get someone else who's like kind of subpar, and you're just like, well, I'll take this guy for now until I find another thing too. The levels go by super quick. Called Magic Sword. You can like jump ahead levels if you would like to, but then the farther you go, the more you're going to start at like level 1. So, instead of like building your way up, with your experience points and all that too, it might be a pretty rough way if you start, closer, start a few levels ahead. While still being at level 1. As much as I love this game, and I really, really do, I think it's really great, I'm still going to give it a B, only because it's very monotonous. It's like, it just kind of seems like the same thing over and over and over again. But super fun, though. It's super fun. I'm a huge fan of Magic Sword. Marvel Superheroes in War of the Gems. Have you checked this game out? Well, I've talked about it just a little bit ago when I was talking about the Super Nintendo games through the years. And this Marvel Superheroes game has, well, it's not quite Avengers, but it has a bunch of the Marvel superheroes like Spider-Man, like Hulk, like Captain America, Wolverine, I remember this time, and Iron Man is in this one too. And this is during a time like before the movies came out where people were still kind of like ridiculing Iron Man. There's a while there before the movies came out where Iron Man wasn't the most sought after superhero, believe it or not. Decent game. It's worth checking out. It's worth kind of playing through. Kind of fun to see who else shows up. Thanos is going to be the end boss, but then there's also Nebula. Other Marvel characters show up later. I mean, sometimes, a lot of times, you're just fighting like evil versions of yourselves. So it's like, really? I mean, out of all the things you could have done, that's what we're stuck with. It's good. I'll give it a B. It's good. Mega Man 7 finally rolls around. We have 1 through 6 on the NES, and now 7 on the Super Nintendo. Now we're getting somewhere. Instead of choosing all the bosses all at once, all the robot bosses all at once, you only get 4 at a time, and then another 4 at a time. Who do you have left? Does it have like Cloud Man and stuff like that too? Again, great for Mega Man. If you like the Mega Man series, it's good. I think it's really good. I'll give it an A. I think it's really good. And I love the fact that on the Super Nintendo, you finally have like the L and R buttons, so you can cycle through your weapons instead of like having to hit start and then scroll through and find out what you want to use. You can do more of that on the fly. I thought it was super cool. We have Mega Man X. And Mega Man X stands for excellence. It stands for great. When Mega Man X first came out, I talked about this story a little bit where I was like, I was so diehard loyal to the original series. I was like, I don't want a spin-off. I just want more Mega Man. And then I played Mega Man X. And I was like, never mind anything I just said. Mega Man X is excellent. It's amazing. It's wonderful. I still like the original series, but it was fun to see Mega Man X and to see what they could do. Just off course, just a path. I mean, it's still Mega Man at its core, but just kind of does its own thing for a little bit. Love that about Mega Man X. Me personally, I might be the only one here. Me personally, I'm giving it an S. I think it's that good. And then Mega Man X2, man, if I give Mega Man X an S, I might have to give both Mega Man X2 and Mega Man X3 also S's, because they're all super, super, super good. All of them are super, super, super good. I don't know what makes them better than Mega Man 7. I think by Mega Man 7 rolling around, I don't know, maybe it's because Mega Man 7 came after Mega Man X? I'm not sure, but I would rather play Mega Man X. So Mega Man X, Mega Man X2, Mega Man X3. Let's just give them all S's because they're that good. They're so good. Mega Man Soccer. Where did this come from? Why did we get a Mega Man Soccer? It's funny, all sports, and I'm okay with doing sports crossovers. Nothing wrong with that. I guess I'd rather take soccer than basketball, but you know, we could have had Mega Man Football, we could have had Mega Man Hockey, I would have been okay with that. Mega Man Dodgeball, I would have been hella okay with that. But we get Mega Man Soccer. Well, you know what? Not only is it an okay soccer game, it's just you're using the other Mega Man bosses, but I did like the fact that they included bosses from like the original series, like Electman and stuff like that, like from Mega Man 1, 2, you know, whatever. The earlier Mega Man games, you can play as them or with them or versus them or something like that too, and sometimes they'll have their special moves and all that. It's an okay soccer game at its core. I just wish there was more going on for it. I'm gonna give it a C. They could have done so much more with this game, and I don't think they did. You ever play Saturday Night Slam Masters? That's right, Saturday Night Slam Masters. I was so excited to see this come through on the Super Nintendo. I liked it okay in the arcade, and I'm the huge wrestling, I mean, I'm literally wearing Relentless Wrestling. This is Spokane for right here, the Spokane Wrestling Federation. I love wrestling video games. This game is a fighting game posing as a wrestling game. Yes, you're in a ring. Yes, you can bounce off the ropes, and yes, you can do body slams and suplexes and stuff sometimes, but for the most part, it's just another fighting game that happens to be in a wrestling ring. It's still really good, but man, I would rather just have a wrestling game from Capcom. But we get Saturday Night Slam Masters, and that's what sells. I'm actually not part of the demographic for this game, as much as you think I would be, because the demographic for this game are the people who love fighting games who also like wrestling. Me, I love wrestling, but I also kind of like fighting games. So I'm giving it a, do I give it an A though? It's really, really good. I still like playing it. I'll give it a B. Just because I was hoping for so much more. I'll give that a B, sorry. Street Fighter 2. S tier. All day long. Oh my god. If it was released today, it would be an S tier game. Street Fighter 2 is that good, and it's been around for, what, 30 years now? Something like that? Over 30, let's see. Yeah, over 30 years, I think. Street Fighter 2, it's the best. Now, this is the original one. This is the one we can only play as the 8 World Fighters, whatever they call them. I can't talk highly enough about this game. Street Fighter 2 Turbo, now that one's my favorite. I played me a whole lot of Street Fighter 2 Turbo. That was my favorite of all of them for the Super Nintendo, and also an S tier game. I'd give that an S too. Well, it's just Street Fighter 2, but then you can play as the other 4 characters, as well as up the speed a little bit. That was always kind of fun. We also got Super Street Fighter 2. The 4 characters they added, we finally got Cammy, so Cammy stood the test of time. The other 3, I'm like, I mean, DJ was cool. I liked playing as DJ. I was a huge fan of DJ, but other than that, take it or leave him. I mean, I'm still playing as E Honda. I'm still playing as Ken. You know, it's just like Final Fight with Hagar. Whoever you add in there, fine, but I'm still playing as, you know, my favorites as it is. So it's still excellent though. And if I give, you know what, I'm actually gonna give this an, do I give it an S? Because it's still good. You know what? I don't have to play as the other characters. I can still play as the other characters that I always play as. I'm always going to play E Honda. I'm always going to play Ken. I'll give it an S. Yeah, that's good. And if you're wondering where like Street Fighter Alpha is, well, it wasn't published by Capcom, but we'll cover that in another video. Super Ghouls and Ghosts. This is funny to me because the first one was called Ghosts and Goblins, so I always think everything else should be Ghosts and Goblins 2, Super Ghosts and Goblins. There's only one Ghosts and Goblins, and then it's like Ghouls and Ghosts, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, and then like Maximo or whatever it was on the PlayStation 2. That's completely different though. But Super Ghouls and Ghosts is such a great game. It has that difficult factor that we know with the Ghosts and Goblins games, but this one I think plays. I think Ghouls and Ghosts is easier than this one, in my opinion. But this one is really, really, really good. And the music was fantastic. The effects of like the snow falling down in that one level. I love me some Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Giving it an A. Super difficult. A lot of fun though. And still fun today. UN Squadron. One of my absolute favorite horizontal shooters. These are the kind of horizontal shooters I like on the Super Nintendo. Everyone loves the bullet hells and the whatever else is going on. Just give me that cool casual experience where I can see the enemy clearly, I can dodge the bullets clearly, I can upgrade my own ships, purchase the weapons I actually want to use. That's what I want in a shooter. Not the hope to find the flying thing like every other shooter. And I'm a huge fan of shooters. Trust me, I love me some shooters. But UN Squadron, even as early as it is, all these years was always hoping for a sequel. Never got one. I never even saw Area 88, the anime. I'm a huge anime fan. I was watching Black Magic M66 the other day, but gotta have my anime on VHS. UN Squadron, I'm giving it an S. It's that good. I love it. And the first time you saw the submarine jump up from the water and crash back down, I was like, oh my god, this game's the best. X-Men Mutant Apocalypse came out by Capcom. This game did come out after the Fox's cartoon was already out, so now people are a little bit more familiar with X-Men. I read X-Men back in the day. I haven't touched it since, good lord, the late 90s, as far as the comic book goes. But the Super Nintendo game, very, very good. Again, there's a lot of people who love the Super Nintendo game or they love the Genesis game. Again, Camp Genesis, the Super Nintendo game is excellent, excellent, excellent. It plays a lot like that Marvel game. Cool to see who the bosses are going to be. You can use your mutant abilities, and then the different stages, you choose your character, and then you're going to be on that character's stage. So like with Wolverine, you can use your claws to climb up the wall, or Beast has parts where you have to like turn upside down and kind of shimmy across a pipe, stuff like that too. So it's fun, it's worth checking out, it's amazing. I say all that, and I'm still giving it a B, but I don't know, B for Beast. No, that's not how that works. It's really, really good. It's just, it plays like a decent X-Men game for the Super Nintendo. It really does. Did I leave any of the games off the list? I'm sure mine were way off from yours. Yeah, no F-tier games from Capcom as far as I'm concerned anyway. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. I already did a few of these back in the day, ranking games from LJN for Super Nintendo, Square, NX. I think I did Ocean a while back too. I already covered pretty much all the companies on NES, and we'll be doing a whole lot more Super Nintendo ranking videos coming up quick. I hope you're subscribed. We'll see you soon.